She got into the car as if she'd been there before. She didn't even look at her phone. She just opened the door, got in the back seat, and without hesitation, said my full name as it says on my ID. "Good evening, Daniel. Your car is exactly as I imagined." That stopped me. She had no way of knowing my full name. And as far as I knew, I'd never seen that woman before. I tried to smile, as if to hide my discomfort, but there was something strange about the way she spoke. Too calm. Too natural. As if we'd spoken many times before, only I couldn't remember. For the first few minutes, she started talking about personal things. Very personal things. Places I'd frequented as a child. The name of the dog I got when I was 10. The nickname my mother gave me when I was sick. That race wasn't just a race. And that woman was definitely no ordinary passenger. If you like real stories that seem like something out of a movie, the kind that mess with your head and make you question what's possible, leave a like and subscribe here at Backseat Secrets. This race was one of the most bizarre experiences I've ever had, and the ending? I guarantee, it will leave you with more questions than answers. Stay with me until the end. My name is Daniel, I'm 39 years old, and I live in Los Angeles. I've been a ride-hailing driver for a long time, long enough to have seen a lot of strange things on the streets, especially at night. I started driving as a side income only on weekends. But after my marriage ended and joint custody of my daughter became my only regular routine, I ended up taking it on as my main job. Nighttime was where I could breathe, earn a decent amount of money without having to smile all the time. No boss. No meetings. Just me, my car, and the stories of others passing by in the backseat. I don't usually talk to passengers much. I like to observe, pay attention to how people enter, how they behave. I often say that after a while, you don't need to listen to understand what's going on in someone's head. Silence always says more. That Thursday night, everything was normal. It was almost midnight, and I was already on autopilot. 3 simple runs, 2 beer girls heading home, a sleepy guy leaving work. No stories worth telling. No warning signs. The weather was strange, however. A muggy heat, no wind, and a drizzle so fine it barely showed on the windshield but made the asphalt slippery. The city was too quiet, as if the world were waiting for something to happen. I thought about calling it a day. I'd already met my goal. But then the notification popped up. A ride less than 2 kilometers away, in an upper-middle-class residential neighborhood. Good value, no surge pricing, and with that frequent user badge, which usually means peace of mind. I accepted, without thinking, without knowing that that race would mark me in a way no other had ever done. On the map, the pickup location was a quiet street, lined with trees and houses with their lights off. When I turned the corner and parked at the indicated spot, I looked around, no movement. Just a figure standing under an awning on the sidewalk right at the GPS location. A woman in a light-colored coat, her hair loose, apparently waiting for me. She stood perfectly still. She wasn't looking at her phone. She made no move to come closer. She just watched me as if she already knew I was the one coming. As if it wasn't a surprise. There, in that brief pause between arrival and boarding, something nagged at me. It wasn't fear. It was anticipation. As if my body knew, before my mind, that this night wouldn't be like the others. And that was exactly it. In my head, I began searching for logical explanations. Have you seen me on social media? Are you a stalker? Do you work with someone in my family? But it all seemed forced. Because she didn't just know things. She spoke as if she'd lived those memories with me. Do we know each other from somewhere? I asked. She looked away for the first time, as if considering how far she could go. Maybe. Or maybe we're just meeting again in a new form. Did it make sense? But for some reason, I understood what she meant. Or rather, I felt what she meant. From that moment on, what had been merely strange became disturbing. Because that woman seemed not only to know parts of my life that no one should know, but she acted as if those memories were hers too. I've had strange passengers before. Drunk people who called me by the wrong name, teenagers playing mind-reading games like TikTok psychics, even a lady who insisted we'd been neighbors in another life. But what that woman did was different. It was too precise, too intimate. The scar on your right leg, It was from that fence, wasn't it? You must have been about 8 years old. She said this while looking out the window, as if commenting on the weather. I got goosebumps all over. This scar is below my knee, hidden. Not even my daughter knows where it came from. I've never shared it on social media. I can't even remember the last time I mentioned it out loud. Before I could react, she continued. And that place near the lake? Where you used to go camping with your dad? She turned her face slightly towards me. You still dream about that place, right? That sentence took me apart. Because yes, I dream. At least once or twice a month. But I've never told anyone. I've never needed to. It's a silent dream, mine, buried deep in my memory. And she described the place accurately, as if she'd been there with me. As if I, too, had seen the light blue tent, the sound of dry leaves at night, the smell of wet wood. At that moment, I no longer felt like she knew me. I felt like she inhabited me. As if she had access to the oldest files in my head. And worst of all, she spoke calmly as if she were merely reminiscing, not invading. As if it all were natural. I started to sweat. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. Every cell in my body screamed that something was wrong. But my mind couldn't formulate a logical reaction. How could anyone know that? How could she know all this about me without us ever having met? As silence fell between us, for the first time, I felt she was comfortable. As if what she'd said so far was just an introduction. I was tense, my entire body on alert, but she seemed calm. Almost pleased to finally get these memories out. I didn't know what to think anymore. It felt like I was in a crazy dream where everything seems absurd, but you keep accepting it because your logic has been hijacked. How do you know these things? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled without showing her teeth. A discreet, almost polite smile. You know how it is these days. The internet is full of information. She paused. We think we have privacy, but in reality, it's all spread out there. I glanced at the rearview mirror. The smile was still there, intact. But the look seemed sad. Or maybe nostalgic. There was something there that didn't match the casual tone of the answer. Oh, I said, this wasn't on social media. This isn't even on my mind all the time. It's old stuff. Things I didn't even remember properly. She looked at me now directly and spoke more quietly. Maybe, you just don't know where you put it. But I know. I've always known. That gave me chills. It wasn't just about information. It was about access. About shared memory. As if she'd lived inside my mind long enough to know the dark corners even I no longer visited. Her excuse was simple, but false. And the scariest thing is that she knew this and still chose to lie. Not because he wanted to deceive me, but because he seemed to test how much I could take before asking the right question. At that moment, I understood. She wasn't there just to remind me of something. She was hoping I would recognize something too. I needed to regain some kind of control. I felt like a passenger in my own race. Everything she said pulled me deeper into a spiral of doubts and memories, as if I were losing myself within myself through someone else's voice. That's when I decided to test it. Funny, you know so much about me, but you have no idea what I did before becoming a driver, right? She kept her gaze fixed on the window as if she hadn't heard. I continued. I was an interior designer. I did big projects here in LA. Some quite famous ones, even. It was a lie. Completely made up. In fact, I worked for years as a computer technician at a public school. But I wanted to see her reaction. She turned her face slowly, looked at me in the rearview mirror and said, without changing her tone, "You never liked the office. You always hated being cooped up in fluorescent lighting and having people ask you for favors on the side. That's why you dropped out of school and started driving. The car became your refuge, your mobile confessional. It was like being punched in the gut." I'd never said it to anyone in those words. But it was true. It was the exact truth as it lived inside me. I remained silent. I tried to think quickly, to create another scenario, to test another lie. But she always responded with a more accurate version than I could articulate. She didn't seem to guess. She remembered. And that's when I realized maybe she wasn't lying. Or at least, she wasn't completely out of touch with reality. Because whatever was happening there, it defied all common logic. And yet, I kept driving. It was as if she wasn't quite in the present. As if she weren't just in my car, but transiting between different layers of memory, perhaps even some other reality. The way she looked out the window, the way she answered only after long pauses, as if listening to echoes only she could hear, everything indicated that this race wasn't just about getting somewhere. There was no nervousness in any gesture. No hesitation in her words. No haphazard movements. Everything she did seemed rehearsed, precise, measured, yet spontaneous, as if she were simply repeating something inevitable. I began to notice details. She didn't have her phone in her hand. She wasn't checking the app. She wasn't checking the route. Instead, she was observing the path as if revisiting an old dream, recognizing corners and streetlights as if she'd passed by them 1,000 times before, even though the destination wasn't familiar, even to me. Sometimes she smiled to herself, as if remembering something. Other times, she just took a deep breath, as if preparing for an important moment. But the strangest thing was the way she spoke to me, carefully, as if she knew exactly which words would resonate with me, as if touching specific points inside my head. It was as if she were guiding me not just along the race course, but inside my own mind, reminding me of things I hadn't realized were still there. And worst of all, I felt like she wanted to take me even deeper. More than just talking, she wanted me to understand something. And she seemed to have plenty of time for that. She was silent for a long time after her last answer. The city slowly passed by the windows, and even with the car headlights reflecting off the glass, it felt like we were in another dimension. A separate space, suspended in time. It was only when we passed a lighted intersection that she finally spoke. Have you ever heard of soul mirroring? The question came as if commenting on something casual. But her expression, this time, wasn't light. It was serious. As if she knew what was coming next couldn't be said lightly. It's like an experimental app, still in the testing phase. No one really knows where it came from. But when you access it, you don't see another person. You see another version of yourself. I remained silent, hoping it was a joke. But she kept her gaze fixed on me in the rearview mirror, as if expecting me to understand immediately. My version? What do you mean? Like an AI that simulates who I am? She shook her head slowly. Like yourself, but from another time. Another place. With the same core memories, the same traits. Just in a different vein. I laughed nervously. The most instinctive reaction when reality begins to break. So, you're saying you saw me in another universe? She didn't respond with words. She just looked at me with a mixture of pity and familiarity. As if she had no doubt that, yes, she knew me. From before. From somewhere I couldn't yet remember. That idea was absurd. But at the same time, it explained a lot. It explained the way she spoke to me. It explained what she knew. It explained why I felt so recognized. The problem was, at that moment, I didn't know what was scarier, her telling the truth or not. I glanced in the rearview mirror again, expecting her to laugh, to say it was just a joke, or some kind of interactive fiction. But there was no irony in her eyes. No hint of exaggeration. She believed every word. And worse, it made me doubt my own certainty that it was all impossible. She took a deep breath and said, "I was you." I froze in my seat. I didn't understand right away. She noticed and continued. In another place. Another time. Another cycle. The difference between your life and mine was a detail. A decision. A loss. A 10-minute delay, perhaps. But it all started the same. He paused for a long time, letting the words sink in. Same name. Same childhood. Same scars. I also worked at that public school. I also had a daughter. And yet, I also fled into the car when I couldn't stand being surrounded by white walls anymore. It was like hearing a mirror speak. As if each sentence were pulling up forgotten memories and returning them in a voice that wasn't mine, but knew exactly how I thought. At first, I thought you were just another variant, just another reflection. But now I'm almost certain that we're crossing paths for some greater reason. Logic was falling apart inside my head. None of it made sense. But the feeling was that it was all too true to be made up. I no longer knew if I was listening to a crazy woman, a clairvoyant, a brilliant actress, or a part of myself, returned from somewhere I had never been, but still will be. She started talking about things that weren't in photos, social media, or forgotten files somewhere on the internet. They were thoughts, feelings, questions I'd never even voiced out loud to myself. You still wake up at 3:17 a.m., right? For no reason. Heart racing. Like you've forgotten something, but you don't know what. The chill that ran through me wasn't just physical. It was as if she'd unlocked a drawer inside my head. One I didn't even know existed. Because yes, I've been waking up at this time for years. But I never told anyone. I always thought it was just a sleep disorder. A random detail. You've never told anyone, she said. Not your psychologist, not your ex-wife, not your friends. Because you think it's just a small detail. But it's a breaking point. She turned her face to me. The look was no longer mysterious. It was familiar. As if she were trying to comfort me. You feel like everything's repeating itself, don't you? The streets, the smells, the conversations, the choices. As if life had been on a loop, and no one noticed anymore. At that moment, I couldn't deny it. Because yes, I'd been feeling it. For the past few months, maybe even the past few years, everything seemed echoed. Repeated with slight variations, as if I were walking in circles inside an invisible city. And then she said the sentence that froze me completely. I felt that too. Right before. I changed. Change what? I asked. She just looked ahead and replied. Her tone changed. Not abruptly, but subtly. The pace of her speech slowed, became more ponderous. As if, until then, she'd been testing the limits and now knew exactly how far she could go. You shouldn't have accepted that race, Daniel. The sentence hit me like a sudden break. My heart raced. I felt my entire body react before my mind could grasp what it meant. The way she said it, it wasn't a warning. It was a statement of fact. Like this? She didn't answer right away. She just continued staring out the window, her fingers folded in her lap, as if she knew the doubt was more powerful than the answer. There are encounters that shouldn't happen, she said. There are versions that shouldn't cross paths. This might have been a mistake. I no longer knew if she was threatening me, protecting me, or preparing me for something. What kind of error? She slowly turned her head, looking straight at me in the rearview mirror. Her expression was devoid of emotion, but her gaze had an uncomfortable depth. When two lines cross outside of time, one of them fades. I was breathless for a second. Was she telling me that because I had crossed paths with her, something inside me might disappear? That race, that simple race, could cost me some part of my existence? She seemed to sense my fear, and for a moment her expression softened. Sometimes it's not the body that disappears. It's the memory. It's the identity. You keep living, but you're no longer you. There, in that moment, I understood that I was facing something much greater than a strange woman with good stories. I was facing a border, and perhaps I had already crossed it. It's over there. You can stop just before that curve. Her voice was low, almost a respectful whisper. I looked ahead and saw we were approaching a narrow street lined with old warehouses, most of them unmarked. No shops. No houses. Just high walls, the occasional barred window, and a thin mist beginning to rise as if summoned. The GPS still showed 2 more blocks to the marked endpoint. But she had stopped me before that, with the precision that had accompanied me from the beginning. Are you sure? There's nothing here. She nodded and added. There's enough. I parked slowly, engine idling. For a moment, I considered keeping the car running and getting out with her, asking her who she really was, trying to make sense of what I'd just experienced. But something held me back. A kind of instinctive respect. Or fear. It's hard to separate the two. She opened the door as smoothly as she had entered. She set her feet down calmly, as if the ground wasn't unfamiliar to her. And before closing the door, she leaned slightly into the car and said, "Next time it will feel like déjà vu." "What do you mean?" I asked. She just smiled. A sad smile, almost too human. "You will remember me when it is your turn to mirror." Then he closed the door, crossed the street to a huge, unmarked metal door, and disappeared inside. No bell. No key. He simply vanished into the darkness. I stood there for a few minutes, feeling as if time had stopped too. The silence was absolute. No cars passed. No voices. No wind. Just me, and the feeling that some part of me had been left there, along with her. When I finally looked at the back seat, I felt that dry shiver run up my spine. She had left something there. It was a small card, rough in texture, like recycled paper, with no name, no phone number, no words. Just a symbol printed in the center, something between a broken mirror and a maze. And just below, a QR code. I stared at it for a while, phone in hand. Part of me wanted to scan it, find out what was behind that code. But another, stronger, more instinctive part told me not to. That maybe it wasn't meant to be discovered. At least not yet. I put the card in the glove compartment drawer. And I haven't touched it since. But sometimes, while I'm driving, I feel like it's still there, waiting for the right moment to be activated. Or maybe, just watching me. Since that night, nothing seems the same. The feeling is that something has been activated. A door has opened within me or behind me, and now, even without meaning to, I notice signs everywhere. Repeated sounds. Phrases I've heard before. Eyes that follow me as if recognizing me, before I recognize them. And every time I put my hand in the glove compartment, where I kept that card, I feel like I'm one gesture away from diving into a place from which I might not return the same way I entered. Do you believe there are versions of you living other lives? Or that some people manage to cross these borders? Tell me in the comments, would you have scanned the code? And if stories like this move you, stories where reality and impossibility intersect inside a moving car, leave your like and subscribe here at Backseat Secrets. Because some races take you far beyond the final destination.